Behind the Shades.
My name is Julie DeLucca-Collins, and I'm an author, coach, and the host of the Casa de Confidence podcast, which I started during the pandemic. And I am so proud that's like my little baby. And in addition to that, as I mentioned, I am a coach. After having a successful 20-year career in corporate America, I left corporate America. Through the pandemic, I was offered a separation package, and it was the best thing that I did because I was really primed and ready to start doing some of the stuff that I really love, which is really supporting and helping women rise and go confidently in the direction of their dreams. And that's what my business is called, Go Confidently. But I've also been in a journey to become more peaceful, more purposeful. And as I was going through the years, I got my certification in addition to a couple others in mindfulness and as a yoga teacher. And for me, that has been really anchoring, especially in these days, right? Where we're dealing with so many different things that can cause us anxiety, that can cause us difficulty. But ultimately, I am someone that is really excited to just be in the moment and to serve.
So when you mentioned that you're in the corporate atmosphere for about
Mhm.
20 years and then you ultimately decided to take up coaching to help women find their peace, was that a difficult, actually, I'll ask this question in two ways. One,
Okay.
when you're going through it, was that difficult? And in hindsight, was it not really as difficult or has it remained the same?
So, I am fortunate enough. I worked in an industry, it was an educational field, and I'm fortunate enough that I worked for two companies that I really love the people, I really love the mission of the companies, and not to sound obnoxious, but I was really good at what I did. It really tapped into some of my very innate skills in working with people, in operations, and in also strategizing and how to grow a business. So all of that came very naturally to me. I would say that the in the last year, the company that I was with, the last company that I was working with, I finally reached the C-suite within the company. So for a woman, a Latina, it really is exciting because you keep growing, you keep going, you keep hoping that you get to the next level. And once I got there, it was great. It was a great position to be able to enact change. However, I knew that there was more for me. And throughout my career, one of the biggest things that I would hear from people, specifically women, is I wish I was as confident as you are. And I would kind of look around and be like, oh, I'm not as confident as you think I am. And I think that that's really one of the misconceptions that people have, that when you see someone being successful, that they have it all together. And it's not the case. There are many times in which I had to come back and regroup. There are many times in which I didn't know how I was going to do something. And what really helped me is one, my dad was a great mentor. My husband's very supportive. And just knowing that, okay, I'm just going to take the leap and take the step and do whatever and learn from the experience. And that's one of the things that kept me going and helped me achieve the things that I achieved in my corporate career. But I really saw that there was a need for me to come alongside other women and say, hey, you can do it. If I did it, you can too. And remind them that they have the gifts and talents to be able to do that. And that's one of the reasons that it was easy to do what I was doing, but it was also easy to transition. I thought, maybe in 5 years, this is 2020, in 5 years, I'm going to go on my own. And I started to here and there, I would have one client or another person that I would help. I really loved it. But then all of a sudden, when the pandemic hit, I had no choice. And that's what I did. There was a fear though, in the time that I was a corporate and I was thinking of leaving. of like, oh, what would people think of me? Will they think I'm crazy, that I'm leaving a career to do this thing? And that was one of the things that had kept me in that comfort zone of being in my career for longer than perhaps I needed to.
And you articulated that so well, especially that last part, because I think comfort is what leads people to stay in situations that maybe they believe there's something more. Like you mentioned,
Hmm.
right? There's more
Yeah,
to
for
you.
sure.
There's more to Julie. There's more to me
Hmm.
being a part of this company. And I see that all the time. And it's like the parallels because you mentioned where you were in your career. And
Hmm.
I'm at that point where I'm in a managerial position where I work.
Hmm.
And sometimes when I look around, when you know better, you can actually see who's comfortable in
Yeah.
their role, right?
Hmm.
And when I see, and one of my biggest fears that I have is what if I reach the point where I'm more comfortable than I am happy?
Yeah, and that happens to many people. I think, and again, if you're looking at how your brain is wired, your brain is wired to avoid discomfort and leaving for the unknown, trying to do something that maybe you're a beginner at, whereas you've been in this role for a while and it's easy and it comes naturally. And maybe there's challenges from day to day, but you know how to navigate the waters, right? Your brain is going to say, why would you go somewhere else? This is good. This is like, don't rock the boat, right? And that's where many people tend to stay where they are at because, well, why leave? Why do something different? And what ends up happening is that the discomfort in whatever position, job, relationship, phase of life you're in has to be greater than the fear of the unknown for you to make a move. And for me, I didn't have a choice, right? I said I had the offer for a separation package because of the pandemic. The company was hit very hard. So it was not an option. So I said, okay, well, I kind of know what I'm going to do. I've been thinking of doing this anyway. And I took that leap. But and I can look at another instance in my life. I was married before I married Dan. I was in a marriage and it wasn't the most ideal of marriages, and my self-esteem really suffered. I think that there were things that they were, they were okay, but it wasn't ever, such a horrific story that I needed to have that desire to leave. And I kept thinking like, well, maybe if this happens, or maybe once this comes about, it'll get better, right? And we keep hoping. And finally, the discomfort of being in this less than loving relationship that was hurting me internally became so great, then that's when I took the leap to leave.
And were you able to pull some your confidence from the fact that you had an idea what you wanted to do, whereas some people may be in a situation and be like, I don't know what I'm going to do, and then you have the fear becoming stronger than any confidence that they would have had.
I think that it varies for everybody and it varies with who you are as a person as well. I also think that it really goes back to your mindset. When we find the gap in life, and what I mean by the gap is when we're looking at a situation. And so, for instance, I'll give you an example. This morning, I could have really found the gap in a situation. There was a restaurant that we wanted to go and try out with my husband this morning for brunch, and it was early. It wasn't even brunch, it was breakfast because it was like 8 o'clock on a Sunday. And I've been excited, I've been looking forward to it. So we drive there and it's closed. And I'm like, oh. And the next thing you know, my husband's like, oh, look, it says that they're changed locations. So we drove like 10 miles to the new location. We get to the new location and it's this like old warehouse. And it looks it could be trendy, but there were cars in the parking lot and it's a brewery. And I'm thinking, did they merge with the brewery? Well, let's go inside, right? Again, I could have been like, oh my God, I can't believe this is where this place is. No way. And we went inside, and guess what? It wasn't at the brewery either. They said, no, it's not open yet, right? So then I thought, okay, I could have really been focusing on I'm not at that restaurant. I'm not getting what I wanted. I can't believe I've been driving all over town today. But then I chose to focus on the opportunity, because then all of a sudden I said, you know what? There's this other place that we haven't been to in a while, and it's really fun, and let's just go over there. When else were we going to be out here and make it a point to be here? So the same thing happens in our life. There's many instances in which we choose to focus on, oh, they gave me the wrong order. Oh, it's raining today. Whatever it is, or you know what, I want to be here in my success, but I'm only achieved halfway through. If you choose to focus that you maybe went halfway through and you're much further ahead than you were when you first started, that's the mindset that you need. That's the mindset that is going to help you to continue to be going and continue to help you to feel like you are moving forward confidently, as opposed to focusing on, oh, it's only 10 steps. I don't measure up. I'm not big enough, or, getting there. So your mindset has a big to do in the support of having the right confidence.
And it's like the person, when it comes to mindset, that every time they're walking forward, they're looking back because they're like, let me focus on what I'm missing instead of
Yeah.
seeing what is in front of them. So, Julie, when you're helping women be confident, what are some of the ways that we can pull confidence to help us in our life?
So, one of my favorite questions. I am a business and life strategy coach. So, I mainly work with women who are looking to build and create a business. One of the biggest things that happens with any entrepreneur, whether you're a woman or a man, is that we get really stuck in the minutia. And what you said, I have to say, it's brilliant, because it is so true. As an entrepreneur, many times you're either looking back or looking ahead, and you're never focusing on what's in front of you. And that tends to be what really trips you up. So one of the ways in which I help individuals is I am a tiny habit certified coach. So I help individuals be able to create the tiny habits to allow them to automate the behavior, to do the daily action that gets them traction. Because when you're not doing that, and you allow yourself to chase after the next shiny thing, and you forget about what the goals you are, what the things that you're trying to accomplish, and you're not just showing up day in and day out on a consistent basis, then you're allowing yourself to really be behind the eight ball when it comes to achieving your goals. So that's a little bit of how I help women. I also help them be able to create the type of business, because honestly, even for me, who came from a successful business career, I knew about marketing, I knew about sales, I knew about operations and business development. But when you're an entrepreneur, nobody kind of gives you the roadmap and says, do this first, this second, this third. And there's a lot of overwhelming knowledge and content out there. Oh, just launch a course, or have this, or do that, or buy that. So what I do with my clients is, like, we really start from very basic stuff and build up. We really figure out, what is their brand, their personal brand. We really identify, who do you want to serve and how? Because when you define that, then it's easier to keep going to the next step. Do you need a website? Maybe not. What are you going to sell? How are you going to sell it? And we start in a really very concise way of moving forward with each next step all outlined for them. And that's how I help them. And I also, when they doubt themselves, when they feel like they're lacking confidence and that move to the next step, those tiny habits and that framework of building tiny habits help them get the confidence. So by teaching them that framework, it also allows them to do the things that they want.
It's like the person that, because you have a podcast as well, that they look at the most successful podcasters or the
Mm-hmm.
people with the best shows that are generating hundreds of thousands, if not millions of views. And
Mm-hmm.
instead of comparing themselves to where they were yesterday or a month ago, they're
Mm-hmm.
comparing themselves to the very best, and they feel like they're missing out when they actually
Yeah,
aren't. So when you mention
absolutely.
the tiny things, can you give us an example of something that we can do just
Mm-hmm.
every day to ensure that we are on that path?
Okay. This is so good. So the framework in Tiny Habits, and Tiny Habits is based on the book by Dr. BJ Fogg, who is the founder of the Tiny Habits Academy. And, he's been the most leading researcher in behavior creation at Stanford University. What he has found is that your brain likes to change when it feels good. If you're relying on motivation to create action, you're never always going to have 100% motivation. So you have to rely on your brain automating the behavior. So there's different things that you probably already do every day. So let's say for the entrepreneur who wants to who wants to be consistent at maybe having better time management, right? So one of the first things they're going to do is they're going to come sit at their desk. So you have to pair a behavior with an existing behavior. So whatever new behavior you want to establish. So I want to say maybe my new behavior is in the morning. I want to go ahead and make sure that I am achieving my top three priorities for the day. So as an entrepreneur, I'm always going to come sit at my desk. So then that's already an established habit, right? I got to come and sit here. So then I am going to pair the behavior. So when I sit at my desk, I am going to open my calendar and come up with my top three priorities for the day, and I will write them down in a piece of paper in front of me. So when you do the behavior, which is writing down my three things after I did the existing behavior that is normal and already automated, then the next thing is you do the part that really makes that habit of writing my three things stick to your brain and automate. You celebrate that you did what you set out to do. Notice I didn't say that I'm not going to sit here and write a lengthy to-do list. The bottom line is that you are better off creating a done list. And if you create a list that is achievable of three major things that are going to move your business forward, that are going to get, the ball rolling, that's what you should concentrate on. And guess what? If all I'm looking is at my calendar for the day, and some days maybe I don't write my priorities. If my goal was just to open up my calendar and evaluate the priorities, and I celebrate that I opened up my calendar, then I am successful. That's all you're going for. What happens, many people say, I'm going to start doing a half-hour yoga, and yet maybe you weren't working out at all. You're better off saying, hey, when I wake up, I am going to do 3 stretches or 3 sun salutations. Guess what? You're going to do those and you're going to be like, oh my God, I did my 3 salutations. And you're like, you know what? I'm here. I might as well do a couple downward dogs, right? And then you can continue to add and always celebrate as you're going along, because that's what helps you move forward, and it helps you feel proud of yourself and confident that you're doing the behavior.
So, Julie, those are excellent points. And a question I would have for you in regards to that is, when you're working with these women and you're giving them basically this itinerary, the process, you're giving them this information is so well needed. What's maybe some of the stumbling blocks that may prevent or maybe hinder women in this?
Yeah, so one of the biggest challenges that I find with many entrepreneurs, and I would say I predominantly work with women, but it can be for guys as well, is shiny, the oh shiny syndrome, like attention deficit of oh shiny as entrepreneurs. I have a client who is actually a male, and he is trying to build a business and working with other entrepreneurs, service and edit some of their videos. And a lot of times he has a work log of things that he should accomplish. And what ends up happening is he'll come, he will sit at his desk. He's so excited. He's got this new client. He's going to be editing this wonderful introduction for YouTube. And then the next thing you know, he's looking for the next best software to help him do it better, right? And then he loses a couple of hours doing that. And then by the time he gets into the editing, it's like crunch time and he has to do it, and he has to work longer than he anticipated. And he's like, oh my God, I've been sitting here for hours. That happens to many of us as entrepreneurs. Really being able to stay on task is very crucial. And one of the ways in which I teach my entrepreneurs to do that is time management. I help them create an ideal calendar. And by that, I mean every day you create, you can either create a theme day. For me, I tend to have theme days. Monday is my admin day. I typically don't take any appointments or clients on Monday. On Fridays, they typically be my financial day and also my public relations day, in which I set up a lot of meetings or things that are upcoming. And then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, those are my client days. Those are my recording days, my content days. Actually, Tuesday is my content day because once I know what I'm doing for the week from my admin day, Tuesday, then I know, okay, I need to write my content. This is what I'm going to do if I'm putting together stuff that it's going out for the week. So if you create a very specific calendar that says, hey, every Tuesday at 2 o'clock, this is what I do, then you know that it's easier for you to stay on task as opposed to being distracted. One of the other things too, when it comes to time management, is a lot of entrepreneurs say, I need to get as much work done for this client as possible, but they're not driving their to-dos or their priorities, and their calendar is not driven really by what their values and priorities are. I think that a lot of entrepreneurs will say, I really want to, I want to be successful. I want to replace my corporate salary, let's say, right? And if that's what they're looking to do, then that means that there's going to be some things that they're going to have to say no to, at least for the time being. And when you say yes to something and you're saying no to something else, then you have to be aware of that. And as an entrepreneur, if your goal is to replace that salary, that means that maybe you are not hanging out with your friends as often in the beginning of your business. Or maybe it means that you need to go to bed earlier. Or you need to turn off your social media so you're not just mindlessly scrolling. So all of these things are the things that actually make a difference for entrepreneurs, is really creating the boundaries or the margin for your business so that you can continue to move forward.
I had to explain that one point to a few people who were thinking about doing something on their own. And I told them that one thing you're going to find is that the hours in the day remain the same.
Mm-hmm.
So something has to be cut out. And I told them one of the areas that a lot of people are hesitant to cut out is time with their friends doing things that are not productive.
Yeah.
And then they found that they're like, well, does that mean I can't party? I'm like, you won't be able to go to the bar and pick up girls this Friday. You may have to stay home and do what you have to do, because as you mentioned, you're going to have to become a master of your own calendar.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, there's going to be some things that will no longer fit in your calendar on a consistent basis.
Yeah, and it goes back to your priorities. One of the exercises that's very good for anyone to do is people set up goals and they say, I want to achieve this goal. But have you really figured out why you want to achieve that goal? It's very important to understand, what does it look like? So for me, being able to achieve a goal of a successful business means that I have the freedom to be able to do some of the other things that I want to do. In the very beginning, maybe I did have to say no to hanging out with friends. But now if I want to travel and spend time with my friends, I can do that because my business is flexible enough. But in the very beginning, it was not the case. But having a clear picture and understanding is very, very important. Your goals should be SMART goals, specific, measurable, actionable, time bound. But it's really key that before you do any of that, that you really spend time understanding what's most important to you. Because if the Friday night happy hour is important to you, as opposed to, oh, you know what, I'll make the money later or whatever, or creating that income, then that's what's going to show up in the actions that you do every day.
Do you find some of your clients experience guilt when you put them in a situation saying that You're going to have to get a grip on your calendar. You may need themes, and you may have to cut out some of the things that you enjoy doing in another life.
I don't think that there's a matter of guilt. I think that, so for instance, take a mom who, I have a client, one of her biggest goals was that she wanted to be able to pay for her family to go to Disney. And she's like, I want to pay for one of those top notch vacations where we stay at the best resort with all of the characters. My girls are going to be able to have breakfast with Cinderella and get the outfit done and everything. um and where there are times in which maybe she chose to work on her business, or sure, but she didn't do it in a way that it was also sacrificing her time with the girls. It was just a matter of what mattered to her least. And when it came down to it, that time that she was just spending scrolling on TikTok was the time that was the one that actually could get nixed, right? So, no, being an entrepreneur doesn't mean always, oh my God, I'm so guilt ridden because I can't do the things. I don't see my parents. I don't do this. What happens is you want to make sure that you really truly understand where your time is going, because there's a lot of times in which we're spending our time doing things that we didn't realize, right? We all have the same amount of time. I know that, and actually, it's a guilty pleasure of mine, especially during the holidays. I can be found in front of the television on a Sunday just watching the romantic Hallmark movies, right? But that doesn't mean that I do it all the time, because again, time doing that means that that's time that I'm not spending with my husband, or that's not time that I may be cleaning my house. So you have to really be clear with what you're trying to accomplish. Where is your time, and what are the things that then you prioritize? What's most important? Is it, watching the television, or is it cleaning your house? Which is the most important? And if you decide, what, I just need a rest and I need to hang out and do that, then do it. But be okay with the things that you said no to.
And I'm very happy actually, Julie, that you clarified that, because there, when I try to have the explanation in my circle, they it's not an easy conversation. And I can
Mm,
say that as someone that is coaching people, I am better equipped, right, than the
yeah.
average person. So I can see where some people, I had someone that they gave up their dream because they're trying to explain to their friends that, hey guys, this is what I'm looking to do. And
Mhm.
because of the feedback wasn't as positive as they would hope, they kind of were put in a difficult situation. They said, well, I don't want to do this anymore. And to your point, you have to become
Yeah.
okay with something, right?
Yeah. And Tareen, here's the other thing too that I typically tell my clients. And this is something that even for myself, I've had to really um, embody. Um, when I was writing my book, for instance, I'll give you that example. When I was writing my book, um, I had a title in mind. And I from the first round from the publishing house, the designer sent me, I don't know, over 20 different covers. And that was a cover I loved. That was a cover I loved. And I went to my circle and I went to my audience and to my clients. I said, "Hey, vote on on the cover that matters the most." Right? And everybody chose the current cover. That was the most popular one. And that was probably my least favorite. I would have never chosen that. And the reason I went with that is because the end user was going, that they were my audience, the people who were going to purchase my book, the people who were going to support me. However, I am never going to go to my group of friends, my clients. Well, technically, my clients, I might ask them and do market research with them, but my family and say, hey, how should I run my business? Because ultimately, if we are asking the opinion from people who haven't done what we want to do, then we are asking the opinion of the wrong people. People who are not entrepreneurs, people who don't have a dream, people who don't have a talent that you have. Maybe they'll say, "Oh no, maybe you don't want to. Why would you want to do that? Why don't you want to go to the bar? Why don't you want to hang out at the beach every weekend?" Well, you do want to hang out at the beach, but maybe you want to hang out at the nice little resort and you have a passion that what your business is going to do is going to create something greater than the right now, satisfaction of today. And this is, there's a coach that once said this to me, and it is one of the guiding principles as well for me. The discomfort for today, and that could be whatever you're giving up for your business, for what you're working toward, the discomfort for today is the currency that you pay for your dreams tomorrow. And you're always going to have, people are always going to have an opinion. People are always going to tell you what they think they should do. But you need to, one, only listen to the people who are doing the thing that you want to have or do or endeavor in. And number two, remember that you are the sum. And this is Jim Rohn 101. Jim Rohn, famous quote, "You are the sum of the 5 people that you hang out with." So if you're hanging out with people who are the 10s, who are successful, who are caring, charitable, whatever your values are, right? And these are the people who excel, then yeah, keep hanging out with them. And that doesn't mean that we cut off people who are not who we want to be. We have people that we love. We have people that we care about. But ultimately, really be clear. For instance, my mom at one point in my journey of starting my business, she's like, "Oh, honey, you're working so hard. Maybe you should go get a job." And granted, I have the experience. Any company would probably hire me. I've actually had offers on LinkedIn. "Hey, we're looking for someone with your experience, etc." But that's not what I want to do anymore. So it's difficult to take advice from someone who doesn't get it. And you have to really dig as an entrepreneur into the things that you want, because ultimately that's what creates that peace in your mind. That's what creates that ability to not be out of cognitive dissonance. And that's when you're doing one thing, but your brain wants to do another, or your brain says, "This is where you should be, but you're doing this." So this is something that you really should work through as you're working through your mindset.
And that's beautifully said. And for those listening, that is basically how you want to proceed with everything, because your dream is not someone else's dream. And they may not know how to proceed with your dream because you have an idea of how you want to proceed. When you decided to do what you're doing, Julie, you had an idea already, and you wanted people who were successful in your area probably to validate or maybe to encourage you and build you up. And as you mentioned, you didn't go to a group of people that were going to be discouraging, or worse yet, they didn't know what to do. So if there's a last piece of advice that you want to share with our audience today in regards to getting their confidence and fulfilling their dreams, what is it that you'd want to share with them, Julie?
My biggest piece of advice is first and foremost, you need to make peace with the person that you are. Some of us have some wonderful ideas. Some of us have some wonderful dreams, but you also have to make friends with you. You have to be in the moment with you. You are the person who is going to bail you out, move you, encourage you, motivate you, and ultimately celebrate with you any of the accomplishments, or even sit with you in some of the losses that you have. So it's very important, whatever journey that you're on, to build your confidence, that you look in the mirror and you remind yourself, "We've got this," or "I've got this," or "I can do it." And learn every day to ask your brain the right question, because it's not about, "Oh, how am I going to do this?" But it's more like, "How can I do this?" And be excited about the possibilities that are out there. And that is the gain. That is when you are in the gain of life, as opposed to in the gap and the things that are missing. So focus on that. Be grateful every day, and know that tomorrow is a greater opportunity to show up at least 1% better than today.